Filming Italy, il cinema incontra l'arte, seconda edizione, siamo qui al Pantheon, un'esperienza meravigliosa, unica penso, e sono molto contenta e ringrazio veramente il nostro ospite di essere qui e gli do questo benvenuto a Roma, welcome Ioan Gruffudd. Sono molto contenta perché i ragazzi che ci seguono sul metaverso avranno la possibilità di avere questa bellissima conversazione con un grande giornalista, vicepresidente di Variety, Steven Gaydos, che ci farà conoscere e esplorare il mondo e la carriera di Ioan Gruffudd, entrando anche in domande, diciamo, per conoscerlo meglio. E quindi adesso do la parola a Steve per cominciare la conversazione. Steve.
Thank you, Tiziana. What a pleasure to be here. Great pleasure to meet you, sir.
Thank you very much.
And the perfect place to meet, right?
My goodness, yes. What an incredible treat it is to be here.
Yeah, it's very blessed. They want us to do a masterclass, and I think I'm discovering that I have a hidden history teacher DNA in there somewhere, because I'm loving studying about your career and your early life. And I want to give the students a bit of a history lesson. So we'll start with the kind of origin story. I lived in London many years, but I did not make it to Wales.
Right.
And so my knowledge of Welsh culture is based on growing up loving Dylan Thomas and Richard Burton and Anthony Hopkins.
Of course.
There's many others.
Yes.
As a young man, your father was a headmaster of a school. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. My father was a deputy headmaster of my school, or
Right.
vice principal, and went on to become a principal in another school.
Which I think we could probably do an hour talking about being a young man and having
The psychology of having your father at
I know
school.
someone else that in a Swiss boarding school whose father ran the place.
Right, yeah.
It's kind of an interesting
You
position.
know what, it was interesting in the sense I knew that I was heading into that environment. So you can imagine it, conceptually it would have been tough.
Heading into the educational environment.
I knew I was heading into him being the vice principal
right.
of my high school,
Right.
so
You had a little time to prepare.
I had
mentally.
time to prepare. And you know what was wonderful about the whole situation was the students absolutely loved my father.
Oh, nice.
They loved him. They revered him.
Nice.
He was a really tough teacher and vice principal, but they also loved him, so it reflected well on me in the end.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I see you went to school, if I'm correct in my research. Can't trust the internet, folks, but Pontypridd?
Well, I grew up in Aberdare in South Wales, which is in the Cynon Valley, one of the three sort of valleys that fed Cardiff and the coal mines way back when. So I grew up there in Aberdare, and then I moved back to Cardiff when I was about 8 or 9. Born in Cardiff, but I don't remember being born there, obviously, and then raised up in Aberdare, and then came back to Cardiff when I was 8 or 9.
Knowing that you started in show business pretty early, I still have to ask you this question. You're a Welsh lad, and at some point you tell the family, I'm going into show business. And I try to imagine, what's that about?
You know what? It was interesting. I went to a school, a junior school and high school, that was very much orientated in music and performing. Being Welsh, we sang in choirs. I sang solos. I had an opportunity to learn an instrument and poetry, and we recited poetry, collectively as well as individually. So I was immersed in the Welsh language and the Welsh culture, which gave me the confidence of being up on stage from a very young age. And one day in junior school, they came to audition for the Welsh language soap opera.
Right.
And I was about, I think, 10 or 11, and I got the role. And apparently my mother told me that I came home one day and said, "Oh, Mum, I just went on audition for this role today, and I've got it. So I'm going to start work over the summer, on the soap opera." And it worked out beautifully because the character that I played in the soap opera was away at boarding school. So he came back to the village where the soap opera took place for his school holiday. So it worked out that I was not missing very much school,
Reading about, I started with the idea, Ioan is from Wales, and how odd it would be that he chooses a career in show business. And then I started reading a bit deeper into Welsh life and Welsh culture. It seems that citizenship, being Welsh, and being imbued with a love of literature and culture and music is more organic than maybe other places. That it's kind of a beautiful place to be from if you have a tendency to be interested in this.
Absolutely. I mean, you are immersed in it from a very young age, whether you have interest in it or not. So it's part of your upbringing and part of your heritage.
There's
culturally.
a word that I discovered, and now I'm trying to read my writing. Eisterfod?
Eisteddfod. Eisteddfod.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Tell us what that is.
yes, the Eisteddfod is a cultural festival that happens every year. There are two Eisteddfods. There's the Urdd Eisteddfod, which is the sort of the National Youth League Eisteddfod, which is a huge festival, and then the National Eisteddfod. And these happen 1 year in North Wales and 1 year in South Wales, and in different places all around the country. And if you can imagine, there's a huge tent in the middle, a big sort of pavilion, and all the competitors get a chance to compete on that stage. So there are preliminary rounds to get to the final. So this is the big final. And you have competitions in singing, in folk singing, in dancing, in choirs, in
Recitation
poetry recitation, and group poetry recitations, school choirs, individual piano concertos. Also, it's a real eye opener, because if you thought you were talented as a singer when you were 10 or 11, wait till you get to the finals of the nationals, and then you realize, wow, there's real talent here in Wales. So again, you are fortunate, I guess, to be born where you were born, and I was very fortunate to be born into the Welsh.
Did
culture.
you score in one of those competitions?
I did. I scored. I won the national championship under the age of 25 for folk singing.
No.
So again, this sort of storytelling
Mm-hmm.
through singing. And under 11 as well, I won the Urdd Eisteddfod, the sort of the youth Eisteddfod as well.
You're going to have to text me some Welsh folk music, because the wonderful thing about Spotify, my wife and I are talking, she's Serbian.
Right.
I go and I find Serbian folk music. I discovered a singer whose last name is Nikolic, one of the greatest singers in the world, who I never heard of 3 weeks ago.
Right.
And it's Serbian folk music. So great.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Now I want to
yeah.
hear Welsh folk music.
Yes, absolutely. I'll gladly introduce you to some, yes.
So by the time you went to Rada, right?
Yes, I studied at Rada, yes.
What age were you when you went there?
I was 18, and a very young 18-year-old. I was sort of a late developer physically and sort of emotionally. So
You were a boy.
Yes, I literally was a boy, and looked like a boy, looked very, very young. And one of my peers in my year was an actor by the name of Matthew McFadden,
Yes.
who won an Emmy last year, which I was very, very proud of.
So you and Matthew were in Rada
In the same
together.
year, there's every
Fantastic.
year about 28 to 30 students get into Rada. So it was quite the feat to get in.
And where's Matthew from?
Matthew, I think Matthew's from London, I think.
Oh, he's a
originally.
Londoner,
Yes,
okay.
he's a Londoner, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the year below me, Matthew Rees, who
Yes.
also won the Emmy, for the Americans. And Matthew Rees and I lived together for about 10 or 11 years.
Wow.
So, yes, we have some tales to share there, but we won't go into that.
You were
yeah.
Londoners together? Or?
Yeah, we were in London together. He was in the second year when I was in the third year, so he was a year beneath me in school, yeah.
It's kind of amazing to talk with you about your life, because, when you start to do research and you start to think that you have your own preconceptions, and then you start to see very quickly you don't know anything. But the Welsh childhood prepares you for a life in the arts that a lot of childhood would not. And then the work that you did as a teen actor in TV prepares you, and then you have Rada. But the fact is, you came out of the gate not just as a successful actor in a successful movie, you're an actor in what was at the time the biggest movie of all time.
It's incredible, really incredible.
Can you tell the folks listening to us today, if you get in your time machine and go back, what was it like to be part of the making, but then part of the success and the legacy? We're talking about Titanic.
Yeah, it was really incredible. The whole process for me personally started when James Cameron came to England. He wanted to audition and meet everybody that was right for all the parts, because a lot of these were characters that actually existed in history. And he was obsessed with the Titanic and therefore wanted to get the casting absolutely perfect.
And you're 23, 4,
I'm
5?
21, I think.
21, wow.
Yeah, so I'm quite young, 21, 22. So he auditioned every Welsh actor, I think, for the part that I played in the movie, because he was a Welshman that existed. He actually saved 5 people from the water that evening, and he was from North Wales. So that was that was exciting in and of itself, to sit there with him auditioning, pretending to row this boat and to say all those lines that are so memorable now. And then I was working on a movie already. My first ever movie was the day before I flew out to do Titanic. It was a movie called Wilde, with Stephen Fry playing Oscar Wilde, and Jude Law. And
Posey.
Yes, exactly. And Michael Sheen was in the movie, and I was playing John Gray, who he based the picture of Dorian Gray on, one of his earlier lovers. Wow. So my first day on a movie set was this Saturday, working with Stephen Fry. I'd never been on a movie set before, that was incredible in and of itself. And then the following day, I flew out to Los Angeles. I'd never been in the States. Flew down to San Diego, and then was driven from San Diego down into Rosarito in
down
Baja
to
California.
Mexico, Baja. How many weeks would you have worked on that movie?
I was there for 5 months.
5
Yes.
months.
The movie itself, I think, took about 9 months, but I was there for 5 months, and I think Kate and Leo and the main cast were there for about 6 months.
I'm laughing because I just wrote and produced a movie. We had a 20-day shoot, and I said,
Yes.
If it had been 21 days, I would have shot myself on the 21st day.
Yes.
I can't, everybody says, oh, you only had 20 days. Fantastic.
Yes, yes.
I was done.
It's
but that's producing a little indie movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just goes to show, right? I mean, you can achieve those things if you have those parameters. Then you know what your parameters are, and you.
But also, we weren't making Titanic.
No.
9 months, 5 months. So you were on for 5 months. Were you based in Baja? Or
I was, yes. Yeah.
Yikes!
It was. Look, it was magical because I was 22. I'm on clearly the biggest movie that has ever been made at the time. You can sense that and feel that. All the industry newspapers were talking about the movie because at the time it was always going over budget. Week by week they had a little...
By the way, Variety was guilty. We were one of those...
That's right,
watching him and hectoring him.
Yes.
And everybody was skeptical. And
and you would be, I guess, if you were a business person at Fox, and you would have been very worried watching that budget grow and grow. But what was extraordinary was his passion and his dedication and his sort of sheer willpower to get this thing done and the way that he wanted it done. I think he was ahead of his time with his technology and everything that he was using. But look, we mustn't forget it's a historical movie. This actually happened. It's a real tragedy. So there was a reverence that came with it from our perspective as actors, as well as it being, for me personally, just so exciting to be around Kate and Leo and all these other incredible actors, and Billy Zane.
Well, Leo was so new, and I had met him in '94, and through a film festival thing. He was a kid who had been touted. He was in Gilbert Grape. He was in Boy's Life.
Yeah.
He was in Quick and the Dead at that point.
Yeah.
But none of those are like blockbuster, big movies,
No.
Titanic is like a whole different thing. So you were with Leo the moments before Leo became Leo.
Well, in fact, Leo to me became Leo whilst we were on the movie because I think Romeo and Juliet came out
Yes.
during the
Yes.
filming. So,
The 1-2 punch.
yeah, it was just extraordinary, yeah, to be around that energy. And you know what's wonderful is because a career is long and varied,
Yeah.
and every time I get to see him, which is rare, he always remembers.
Yeah.
We sort of pick up where we left off.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's
nice.
really quite special. And the same with Kate as well. It's because I think we were all the same age, I guess, when we shot the movie. So
Yeah.
we were all very young, and our careers have, had, different trajectories. But to be honest, you could tell then, as a young actor who's out of drama college, observing how he and Kate worked, that,
Yeah.
look, the process is exactly the same.
Mhm.
There's just something magical about both of them. You put a camera in front of both of those,
Yeah.
and it just transforms
Yeah.
them. It just, you're sort of blown away
Yeah.
by both of them.
What an amazing experience to witness
Yes.
the birth of something.
Yeah, it
Because I
really
say
was.
going in, Kate had done a nice movie that was critically acclaimed, but Titanic was the #1 film in the world, Oscar Best
Yeah.
Picture, and nobody was ever the same after it.
No.
But going back to Cameron for a second, you've now worked. That was 27 years ago, right?
That's right, almost 30 years, yeah.
You've been working every day of your life since then. Have you ever met anybody like James Cameron?
You know what? I've worked with James Cameron and I've worked with Ridley Scott
Right.
on Black Hawk
Yeah.
Down. I think in the two different personalities, but the one sort of through line, the one huge trait with all these great directors is the preparation.
Preparation, which is what Bo and I were just
It's
talking about. Yeah.
absolutely mind-blowing. And you'll hear actors talking about Scorsese the same way,
Yeah.
Tarantino.
Yeah.
There's always a plan B, plan C, plan D, and it's always the correct fix. If there is a problem ever,
Yeah.
there is always a plan B. And
They show up every day, completely got it mapped out in their head.
It's
I think it was Hitchcock said that the filming, he'd already made the film in his head
Yes.
because he knew everything that he was going to do in every
Yes.
shot,
Yeah.
every camera move, everything was already planned in his
Yeah.
head, which is a rare, amazing thing.
It is. It's real pleasure to be around that.
This is a very difficult question to ask you because it's a semi-articulate thought that I have that I can't get rid of.
Okay.
And it has to do with the iconic nature of these characters and these bigger than life heroes that you found yourself playing. You weren't just going into a movie playing a guy, you were Lancelot. And you're Mr. Fantastic.
Yes.
And you're Hornblower.
Yes.
You have to have something to lead a movie where the character is like an epic, bigger than life leader of men. Is that something that you ever think about or prep for or ponder, or is it just part of the gig?
Well, look, that's very high praise indeed. I'm very flattered.
But it's a fact. From the beginning, you were only in your 20s.
I know.
And Hornblower is this bigger. Gregory Peck played the character in a movie.
I know. You know what? I think it was. I was very lucky. I think I looked a certain way, which lent itself to the period costume drama. So at the time, look, everybody needs that break, that one opportunity to unlock the door. And I got that break with Hornblower because at the time it was a big television series. If you want to compare it to something in this day and age, the same budget, but back then would have been the same as Game of Thrones. It was huge.
Yes.
It was massive.
Yes.
So, and I'm sure they would have gone through people like Ewan McGregor and Jude Law and Johnny Lee Miller, because they were big sort of stars at the time, sort of the same generation. But this was a TV show. So I got my opportunity. I auditioned and I screen tested with about 3 other guys. And I got the job, So somebody somewhere took a chance on a complete unknown, a complete newcomer, as
But
it
let's
were.
flash forward to you got the part, And because those of us who are not actors, none of us understand what it is. So we ask dumb questions about how it works.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you a dumb question. In terms of becoming Lancelot or becoming Hornblower, Mr. Fantastic, is there a process early on with the director, with an acting coach, with a sibling or friend, yourself staring in a mirror? Is there something where there's ever a discussion about, you have to step in to this leadership of men, giant historical big character part? Is there ever a discussion about the size and playing the dimensions of the character or not?
Well, what's interesting, to me, it starts with the script. The script is the interpretation of these historical novels or these historical characters or fictional characters. So it's already there on the page. And because I had trained in the theatre, you have a toolkit at your disposal to sort of unlock these characters. But it starts with the script. And when a script is good because it just leaps off the page and it kindles and ignites something in you that you just go, I have to play this part, or I know I can play this part. And with Hornblower, I was a young man, not long out of drama college. Hornblower was a 17-year-old boy that was thrust into becoming a midshipman. So then that naivety, coupled with some skill and training, I think lent itself to playing that part. But the heroic nature of the part is just what's in the novels.
Yes.
So you're...
And what you're saying is when you read the script, you're really finding a key in that writing that unlocks that character for you, that humanizes him, that makes you connected to this character from your heart to the heart of that character. Something in the writing is connective for you.
Yeah, I think, to me personally, if you're an actor worth your salt, you can read a good script and then you can know, right, okay, this is how I must do this. The way this is written, this is the way. If I say this way in the way that it's written, and if they direct it and shoot it and produce it and put the right costume and the production design around me, I shouldn't really go that wrong.
Yeah.
If you have that sort of reverence to what's on the page.
Yeah, reverence to the page.
Yeah, I think that's the key. So if you get out of the way, if you, Ioan, get out of the way and just let the character and what's on the page do the work, then there becomes a beautiful marriage of your natural instincts whilst you're on set, working with the director of photography and the director and the camera person, because bear in mind, I'd not led a show ever.
Yeah.
So then I had a genuine curiosity, even to this day. I've watched technology go from 35mm film to Super 16 to the digital age. And so I'm curious about everything. So every day I learn something. I'll probably be learning about the kit that's here now today. It's so I had a real reverence to the process and to everybody's job. So if you can create that atmosphere, you can have a safety net. You feel that you're doing this as a collaboration.
Yeah.
Yes, you are the lead of the show, but you are one of a team of people.
Everyone's pulling on the same end of the rope.
Everybody then pulls for you.
Yeah.
So if makeup, for example, I there's something new every time I sit in the makeup chair. There's a new bit of kit, and I'm fascinated by that.
It's really being engaged in all the aspects of it.
Yes, because it is a collaboration, and then your job starts then once you step onto set, and it's your duty then to do your
stand
part.
and deliver.
Yeah.
Are there directors who really lean in heavily on trying to direct you, and directors who really lean back and let you be, how would you describe the difference between directors that you really bond with and directors who you think maybe need to keep learning?
Well, I think directing in the same way, the longer my career has gone on, you appreciate that you're older than some of the directors that you work with. And and I have a respect for them because they're learning their craft
Yeah.
if they're younger than me, and I'm there to help them, look good as much as they're helping me to look good. I think the best directors, I guess, cast well. They cast right, so they
Yeah.
don't really have to worry
Yeah.
about the lead
Yeah.
actor or the leading characters in a show or a movie. So
Cast the right actor,
they
and then
cast
it's
the right
done.
actor.
Yeah.
And I'm glad for the process, because if you go through many hoops like one would have for King Arthur, for Fantastic Four, several hoops and several auditions and screen tests,
Yeah.
you know that the producers and the studio and the director is getting the right person for the job, because they've got to know you, they've got to help direct you a little bit, they know what they're getting, so that's a huge relief for everybody. Right, we found this person, now we can get on with it.
And sort of last question on that terrain. Were there discussions, because Lancelot has been portrayed on film many, many times. Was there ever a discussion, either with yourself or a friend, that this Lancelot, a little bit different interpretation? What was it you felt that your interpretation of, how was this Lancelot different than some of the other interpretations?
Well, the unique difference, I think, from the traditional telling of the story was that there wasn't a love triangle in the King Arthur that we portrayed. It was more akin to the Seven Samurai or the Magnificent Seven, our version of it. And that was honest, from Bruckheimer and Antoine Fuqua from the beginning. This is the movie that they wanted to make. So I personally had to get over that idea that, this isn't a love triangle. And at the time, I thought, they might have missed a trick here, to have that sort of conflict. But I guess in the traditional sense of the Hollywood leading man, the leading man must get the girl, and Clive was King Arthur.
They simplified it in that way.
Yeah, but what I loved about it, though, was I had my sort of tragic ending. I had this heroic ending on the battlefield, and to me, it was something beautiful. I loved that movie. I loved the making of that movie.
Where did you film?
We shot that in Ireland. We shot it on the same field where they shot Braveheart, the big battle scenes in Braveheart. And it was the hottest summer on record in Ireland. They went there for the weather because they wanted this gritty, earthy, cloudy, tough movie.
Not a cloud in the sky.
There wasn't a cloud in the sky for 6 months.
That's called movies.
Yeah. But that was a wonderful experience because, you're working with Antoine Fuqua, terrific director, a Bruckheimer production. And what was interesting about the movie for me, I noticed quickly, talking about noticing your surroundings and being aware, there was a camera on every one of us, an individual camera on every one of us every single day. So there were about, 7 of us and 7 cameras.
Wow.
So I went, this camera team here is on me all day, every day. So I'm going to act in my own movie with these guys, knowing that, and I kept asking them from the top of my horse, are we sort of here? Are we here? Okay. So I would act in my own close-up every single day. And the beauty of that is, at the end of the movie, when I saw the editor and met the editor for the first time when the movie's done, he said, it was so wonderful because if we were in doubt of anything, we could always cut to you because you were doing something every take. Because I was aware that, they might be shooting the main scene over here, but there's always something, there's a thought, I'm commenting on what's going on without saying anything.
What an incredible luxury, though, to run 7 cameras and be able to edit all this material. Because the average filmmaker would say, what?
What's going on? Yeah. I mean, you sort of end up with 3 now on television, on a daily basis. But back then that was pretty unique.
Yeah. You've had tremendous success in film, tremendous success in television and on stage. Can you tell young people your sort of take on the 3 different modes of acting, what you like or dislike, how you would compare them? Because it would seem like the commitment to a TV show, the weeks and months and years of that, very different than film, which is you're there, a few weeks later, wrap, you're gone. And then stage, there's the audience right in front of you.
Yeah. Well, from an acting point of view, technically, it's the same process.
Same process.
For me personally,
Yeah.
it's the same. Look, clearly on stage, there's 8-week rehearsals if you're lucky, you know, and that's what rehearsals are for, to make your mistakes, to
Yeah.
figure it out, so you know it like the back of your hand that the moment you step on stage.
Yeah.
And obviously your technique, and you've been rehearsing using your voice and your body to project it. You know, it's obviously there's a different technique to selling your character as
Yeah.
an actor, as it were. And film and television is the same process in terms of finding the character. You have less time, hardly any rehearsals in this day and age. But the discipline that I learned from the theatre is that you go home and you do your homework. So when you arrive for those couple of days rehearsal, usually before a film or a television series, you are prepared, you are ready, you've done all your homework, you
Yeah.
know how to do your
Yeah.
homework.
Yeah.
You've written a biography. You've submerged yourself in the history or the
You
time.
do
or
your
the
own
place.
8 weeks or however
Exactly.
many each
It's a
time.
condensed 8 weeks,
Yeah.
but you do it yourself, and you get familiar with that text as much as you can. Now, obviously, on television, you don't get that luxury because they're writing the scripts as they're going
Yeah.
along. For example, on a drama series on a network show. But again, it's about the homework. It's the homework that gives you the freedom on set on a daily basis. If you haven't done your homework, you are winging it, and it's not a very comfortable feeling.
Yeah.
But
you never want to be there.
you don't want to be there, but also there also isn't time to do your homework sometimes. The hours are
Yeah.
pretty intense and pretty
Yeah.
hectic. So your weekends are dedicated to learning your lines and getting
Last
prepared.
question on that point. Do you have a preference?
Oh, I love all mediums. Obviously, I've done a lot more television and film than I have done theatre, but I would love to do more theatre.
You love acting.
I love acting. I love the process, and I love playing supporting roles. I love playing the leads. I mean, there's a lot of responsibility playing the lead actor. I do love it. I do really enjoy it, but I also love coming in to play a supporting role with, you know,
Yeah.
for example, I've just coming out in this movie, Bad Boys Ride or Die, where
Yes.
I play a supporting role, you know, with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, and that was a great experience as well.
And by the way, thank you for saving the summer of 2024 because Bad Boys Ride or Die, until this came out, everybody was, you know, ready to jump off of buildings in Hollywood.
Yes,
and
yes.
then you came out and the Bad Boys Bruckheimer
Yeah.
again, right?
Bruckheimer again. I mean,
yeah,
he did it
big
last
hit
year
film.
with Top Gun, was
Yeah.
sort of saved cinema, or a few years
Yeah.
ago, and this one also.
Quite
but-
amazing.
yeah.
Well, as one of your millions of fans, I can't wait to see what you do next. Always a pleasure
Thank
to
you.
see you on screen, and a great pleasure to see you in person.
That's very kind of you.
No.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you. Thank you.
I want to thank you, Ioan, but you know, in my mind, you know, Mr. Fantastic in this Pantheon with his hand, he can touch,
Yes.
you know, all the
I
Pantheon.
can
Also,
feel it and see it.
you know,
yes, yes.
I can imagine it can be amazing also for the student that watch us. Thank you for your generosity.
Thank
and
you.
I thank you, Stephen Gaidos. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.